Hi, my name is Natalie Lang, and for this project, I was researching psychology discourse communities. So these are 4 points that I thought were important when I went into actually researching, finding my articles and stuff. So first, addiction. My main question for this was, what in the brain causes addiction? And then two, child development. How does addiction in parents affect their children, their futures? Dysregulatory disorders. How does addiction differ from other dysregulatory disorders like anxiety, depression, stuff like that? And then social disorders. How does addiction affect social relationships and people who have struggled with addiction? And then these are my research questions. What in the brain causes drug addiction and how does it affect social relationships in that person's life? And then what steps can be taken to educate people further about addiction? So I went and I found most of my sources through Google Scholar. I found that was a really helpful place. I was able to search by what specific keywords that I wanted, and it came up with a lot of good options and articles. But for some other sources, I did use the Wayne State University Library, the databases, and it took me to PsycInfo, which was actually really helpful too, because it was all based on psychology articles and research done by psychologists. So this is my synthesis map. I put at the top, I have my research question, then it goes down to the definition of addiction. And for my branching off, I put signs of addiction, which can be like mood swings, extreme weight loss or gain, which these would be things that maybe somebody else would notice. And it would be cues to oh, maybe something, or they're having struggles with addiction. And then also options for addicts, which through some of my research, I found that there isn't really enough government funding to actually create lasting solutions for people who struggle. And that there needs to be more help with people who have children and maybe addicts who have kids and can't take care of them, because there doesn't seem to be a lot in place for that either. And then types of addiction, these are just a few different kinds: alcohol, prescription drugs, gambling. There's obviously a lot more. It's just 3 that I thought were really important. And then here are my Cornell notes. So my articles, I realized they didn't have exact kind of information to each other, but so I wasn't able to highlight a lot of the same stuff. But they all went along with the same theme, so they were very helpful. But definitely, it wasn't all the same information, and some of it was one of my research studies they started their research on rats, and when it transferred over to humans, they realized that the data didn't quite correlate, so it didn't work together. And then these are some of the gaps that I found when I was researching. How does the length of time and quantity of drugs someone's taken affect the results? So the one with the rats, they didn't include any of that kind of information. So it could have been more, they could have done more for that study. And then what are the signs of someone struggling with an addiction, and how do they differ based on the different kinds of addiction? So parental who has a gambling addiction, how does that differ from someone who maybe struggles with alcoholism? And then the correlation between parental drug use and the possibility of their children using in the future, and what are the risks there. And then is something needs to be put in place to protect children if parents who struggle with addiction are no longer able to take care of them. That was something that I didn't see a lot of research on either. And then I ended up interviewing my uncle for this. He's been a therapist for around 30 years. And these are some of the questions. I'm not going to read them all off, but I didn't end up asking him a lot about addiction. I know there's stuff in place where you can't really talk about certain patients and stuff like that, but he was able to tell me that he's worked at a lot of different places over the years. Currently he's working at a private practice for therapy, but he worked in a jail for a little bit, and then he did work with families struggling with addiction, parents and their children. He's done a lot of child stuff, but I thought it was really helpful, and I'm probably going to contact him again just to get a little bit more information and clear up some more questions that I have. And then these are my sources that I use. These are the different articles that I was able to read that really helped aid in my research. Thank you.